we have our app running here. So we will stop that guy there. We minimize visual code here. I don't want it maximized. So let's put it side by side so we can see what's going on. All right, now, since we created a blank template, all of our code currently exists for our app lives in the apps.js. So while that's open, I will go ahead and hide our Navigator because we won't need it for the rest of this class. And there we go. All right, so for this first example, we need to include at least view, and we need to include at least, what else do I need? I need view and text. All right, so we have view, text. For right now, we will leave style sheet off. And I will just take out the style sheet for now. We will put it back later, but for now, I just want to simplify things. And minimize this just, so there we go. Can everyone see the code? Is this big enough?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, cool. I noticed in the recordings that sometimes it was too small, so just want to make sure it's big enough. All right, so we have our view, we have our text, and we're pulling all that from React Native. We have our function app here, which is the default. So this is actually what is being loaded on the screen. So we're loading this view with this text and the status bar. So for our first example, we want to import our, we need to add a navigation container. So let's look for navigation container. And if you're using Visual Code with all the React Native plugins installed from the previous presentations, it does code complete for us. So that makes it very nice. So here we did import navigation container from React Native Navigate. And this is if you try to import this and you have not installed this library, your code will fail when you try to run this. And it basically will say, hey, you're missing the Navigate library. And next we want to import our drawer. So we want to create a drawer Navigator. And it also imports it from the React Navigation drawer library. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create 3 screens. We need a home screen, a navigation screen, and a settings screen. So to create screens, we'll just create some functions. And for now, we'll just call it screen. And inside of our screen, we're going to return. And we're going to return an object, which will be a view. And that view will contain some text. And I'm going to just copy in some style for right now. So I'm going to copy in flex1, which is going to say, hey, just center it or put it in the center of the container, align center, and justify center. So all of our text will show up in the middle, all of our components. Closing bracket. There we go. So that is what's called an inline style. We've talked about these previously. And then we'll have our text for our screen. So since we need 3 screens, I'm going to simplify this for now, and we will just duplicate this. And then it's going to yell at us because we can't have the same function names. So we'll create a home screen. navigation screen, navigation notifications screen, and a settings screen. So to make tell us what screen we're on, we will add some text for each screen: home, notifications, settings. Now, if we just save this, nothing changed. That's because we have not wired our screens up yet to the application. Just on my styles. Let's see. Oh, my bad. I dropped the style sheet. There we go. Now it's happy. Okay. So I got rid of our styles. So our app, the default text is now at the top of the screen. All right. So we have our screens. Now we need to add our drawer, like in our presentation here. We need to create a navigation container with our drawer navigation, and then we need to add our screens to it. So we'll come down here, right above our app, and we'll create a new constant for our drawer so we don't have to constantly call that create drawer navigator every time. Equals create. So if you think in terms of Java, we just basically created a new variable and we are pointing to the constructor. So now all we have to do is reference drawer instead of having to type create drawer navigator all over our code. So this is really cool how you can do this in React Native. All right, so we take drawer and we come down here to our return and let's get rid of this view. So just like in the presentation, we need a navigation container. And inside our navigation container, we want to add our drawer navigator. We have our drawer, hit dot, and our options are navigator or screen. So we'll start by adding the navigator controller. And we also want to give it a property. So we want to give it an initial route to tell it what page to load first. And in this case, we will say home. Now, right now, home is not defined, but we will define it in just a second. So this right here will tie to the specific screen alias that we are going to create. So we need drawer again. And this time, instead of navigator, we want a screen. And this can be a self-closing tag. And we need 3 of these. So we need a name. So we need to give it an alias so that we can reference this screen throughout our application. We'll call it home. Call this one notifications. And this one settings. And then lastly, we need to actually tie this screen to our actual screen component. So to do that, we use the property component. And we set it equal to. Oops, not quotes. Use curly brackets. And then you can just start typing and it will find your function. Do component again. Use our object block. And we start typing. So there's notification or not. Notification container. Notifications. Yeah, that's what I want. Notification screen. Oh, yeah, not navigation. Notification screen. There we go. Yeah, you gotta be careful when you use the auto suggestions because sometimes you might not be on the one you want. Now, what will help you identify the one you want is the purple represents functions that you have defined. So that tells me that this is the settings screen that I want. All right, now if I save this, we should see our home page and nothing else. Now, if I swipe to the right, there is my drawer. So now I have home, notification, and settings. So I can navigate between the three screens using my drawer. And that is an example of how to set up using a drawer. Okay. Does anyone have any questions on the first example? Okay. If you did, you are on mute. If not, I'll move on to the second example. So our second example, we're going to mix things up a little bit. So we're going to actually mix some navigations with our drawer. So we're going to add those buttons to our page that allows us to click from home to notifications, from notifications to home, and from settings to home. All right, so now we need to add button to our imports. All right, so now we need to do two things. One, we need to, so because we're using the navigation container, by default, it's going to pass the navigation object to each of these components. However, because right now each of these components do not have any imports into their functions, we cannot use that navigation property or that navigation object. So to get the navigator or navigation, we just add the object navigation. And this will now allow us to use that navigation property. And to use that navigation property, we're going to add a button. And our button is going to have an on-press event. And we will create an object. We will create a call to an inline call or an inline JavaScript call essentially. And here we're going to call navigation dot navigate. And now, because we are passing the navigation from our container here, we have in the navigation the ability to navigate to these aliases. So we have home, notifications, and settings. So here we will navigate to notifications, and then we also want to add another property for title. And we want to give it some text to our button. So go to notifications, and then we need to close our button. We've added an on press, which has the navigate object using the navigate function to navigate to notifications. So if we just save this, we see we now have a button here, go to notifications. And if I click this, it will take me to the notifications page. However, we have not added the button to go back yet, so we're kind of stuck here. So let's copy this button, go to our notifications, go to our settings. So settings, let's go to home, navigate back to home. And notifications, we also want to go back to home. Okay, notifications, home, home, settings, home, home. I save this, we now see we have the button on notifications, and if we click the button, we now go back to the home page. Now, if we navigate using our drawer and go to settings, we can also quickly jump back to the home, but we can't get to settings. So that's where this menu or drawer comes in handy. So we can still jump to our individual pages through the menu, through the drawer, or we can use the individual buttons for navigation that we've added to our application. Okay. Any questions on how we mix the button navigations with the drawer navigations using the navigation object?